The smell is unbelievable because it's so smoky and earthy. Hot. This ain't your mama's chili. I can tell you that right now. The flavor is so rich. Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Food with Mike. I want to show you how I make my award-winning chili recipe because it's something that I've been making for years. I was in a chili cook-off by mistake. I didn't plan on being in it. I normally was doing competitions where I was doing high-end food competitions, but they asked me to be in this as a favor to them. It was a neighborhood cook-off thing. They said, hey, will you be in our chili cook-off? And it was a blind tasting, and I won it. And they got mad when they found out it was me because I was a professional chef at the time, but all is good. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Stick around. I'll show you how it gets done. First thing I do is I start with my Guajillo chilies. Now, it's chili, so I use chilies. You can find these in the Mexican food aisle at Walmart or in any Mexican market that you have around you, if you have one. What you do to start with is just pull off the top here. I split it open, and I take the little seeds and membrane out. They're not hot. They're just, you don't want them in there. Just pull them out of there. And get as many. If you can miss a couple, it's not a big deal. Like I say, it's not hot. It's not a hot pepper. We just want to try to get as much of the seeds out as we can. I'm using 4 of them, and I'm making a big batch because I got family coming over. They asked me to make chili, so I'm showing you guys how it's done. Okay, get as many of the seeds out as you can. Then what we do is we go over to the pan here. It's already hot. And we put it in the pan. I've got, like I said, 4 of them. We just want to get them to change color a little bit. We're not cooking them in this pan. We're going to put them into water in a minute. Open them up. Try to get as much surface area on there as we can. This will help to soften them up. And then they go into water. I'm going to cook them for about 10 minutes in water so that they completely rehydrate. What this does is draws out some of the extra oils to give it additional flavor. I'll just kind of press these down a little bit. And it's in a hot pan. You can use cast iron, but I'm using cast iron to make my cornbread. You can hear it crackling a little bit. So just a couple of minutes in here, you can start to see a little bit of color change right there. As these soften up and get a little easier. We're not burning them. We're just getting a little bit of color. We're just toasting them. Get a little bit of color on them. And with this recipe, I'm going to put it the actual amounts in the description. The problem I have is that it's never exactly the same every time because sometimes the spices aren't as good as the last time you did it. So now what I do is I take them out of here and I put them into a pan of water. And I'll bring this up to a boil. I'll show you in a second here. Get this out of here. So just enough to cover them. And I'm going to bring this to a boil, let them boil for about 10 minutes. Maybe a little bit more, depending on how long. And then we're going to blend them. That's going to go into our sauce. Okay, now we want to brown our meat. And while this is browning, we're going to actually start our sofrito. We'll call it that. So in here I have 1 pound of ground pork and 2 pounds of ground beef. Basically what I want to do is just get all the water out of this. And yes, it's a cold pan. It doesn't really matter. It's Teflon. This isn't meant to be a pretty dish. This is a rustic dish. We just want to cook all the water out of this and get some color on it. Color is flavor. This will all get broken up. This will take a while to cook. I know, I'm crowding the pan. I don't care. Like I said, this is a simple dish that anybody can do it. It can be done pretty quickly. A couple hours, you're done. These are the steps you can take ahead of time. Throw it all in a crock pot and then let it go all day if you want. I'm in a hurry to get this done quickly. You can see all the water starting to come out of it already. And it just started. So I'm going to let this go on the other stove and bring over my other pan to show you the sofrito. Okay, now I have the pot we're going to make the chili in once everything comes together. And I got a couple important steps here that I do. I take inspiration from Mexican cuisine, Indian cuisine, that's olive oil. The sofrito is your vegetable base. I have 1 gigantic white onion, 2 green peppers, and 1 whole head of garlic in here that is chopped up in a food processor. I'm going to dump all of it in there at once. And normally I would say do the onion first. I'm not looking to get a lot of color. I just want to cook as much water out of this as I can. So I'm going to let this warm up a little bit. Get my handy dandy wooden spoon. And the next step after this is kind of important. That's where the Indian influence comes from. Okay, I'm just going to dump all of it in there. I do everything on paper plates because it's easier to show you guys how it's done. And anytime I'm cooking vegetables like this, I'm going to add a little bit of salt to it to help get the water out. So, good healthy pinch there. Okay, so this is what it'll look like when we get all the water cooked out of it. We're not trying to get any color on it. I'm just trying to get these to a point where the water's out of it to concentrate the flavors. Now here's our sofrito. I have 4 tablespoons of cumin. I use a lot of cumin. I have 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. I have 1 teaspoon of chipotle chili powder and 1 teaspoon of chili powder. That's all going to go right in here. This is the Indian influence. I always toast my spices. This will bring out the oils and bring out the flavors. Now again, I'm going to put the actual amounts that I use in the description because I may have to add some stuff to it. I used all the cumin I had. I'm going to let this toast for a few minutes and then we're going to pour a puree of that chipotle, of those Guajillo chilies right over top of this and get that going. The meat goes in kind of at the, after all this is going together. So I'm going to let this toast for a few minutes. We'll come back and I'll show you what we do with the Guajillo chilies. Okay, so the Guajillo chilies have been going for about 10 minutes. You can see how floppy they get. They're going to go in our blender with a little bit of the water to blend them up. And that's going to go onto our sofrito to kind of deglaze that pan. I think I got them all. No, there's one. A little bit of the water. There's no exact amounts. It's a matter of feel. Oops, I turned the wrong burner off there. Now you want to be careful when you got hot stuff in a blender. I'm going to use my wife's Halloween towel here. You want to cover it. Sometimes, and you want to just give a... If you don't do that little pulsing beforehand, it can explode and go everywhere, and it becomes napalm on you. That's going to go right into the sofrito. And it adds an awesome flavor of real chilies. I'm going to let this cook for just a minute. Then I'm going to add a secret ingredient. I'll show you how I get that. So while that's going, I'm going to show you what I do. Move this over here. I need a bigger kitchen, people. Where is my, there it is, food processor. Okay, now I use my food processor with the secret ingredient that I think just takes it to a whole other level. And that is chipotle chilies. I'm not brand loyal, this is what they had. It goes right into the food processor here. I'm going to turn these into a puree. You could use a blender, but I love the flavor of chipotle. Okay. I had my spatula. Here it is. I'm disorganized today. I'm only going to add a little bit to it right now. This will add some heat, but it adds a smokiness that I just love. That goes in. I'm only going to add a little bit for now. And I will adjust it with that as it cooks. So to this mixture, we're going, right? Oh, I might be out of, yep, I'm out of gas. It's all right. I'll refill. I'll get another one. But I also add a can to start with, just one can of just crushed tomatoes. This is a 28-ounce can. Probably going to add another one. In fact, I know I'm going to. So I'm going to let this go for a while, and then we'll add the meat to it and finish it with the beans. Okay, I have another secret ingredient here, and I know what this looks like. It's not what you think, but it does have stems in it. This is Mexican oregano. You also find this in the Mexican food section. I've never seen it at Walmart, but yours might have it. You got this at a Mexican market near my house. I'm going to take, I don't really have an amount. I just kind of take a good little handful, rub it in my hands, make sure I don't have any stems. It's got a lot of stems in here. Just kind of pick out the stems. And I'd say I've got probably a good tablespoon to start with. I rub it in my hands and it goes right in. This adds an amazing aroma and flavor. So I told you, it's Mexican and Indian inspired and just basic cooking principle inspired. And what I'm going to do to loosen this up a little bit, because it's pretty thick right now, you can't see it, but it's a little thick. Looks like almost like a tomato sauce. I'm going to add a little bit of that chili water to it to loosen it up, because this has flavor in it too. I try to derive as much flavor as I can from everything I'm doing in this, because it's got to be hearty and earthy. So next step is to add the meat and let it cook. So I'm going to drain off that meat. I'll add it to it, and then I'll show you what I do next. So as you see here, I've drained off as much fat as I can in the strainer. It just goes in here. Now, this is going to go for at least an hour to get all the flavors to do what they're going to do. And this is not your typical chili. This is thick, and then at the end, I'm probably going to add a little bit more of that chili water to this. Some of this is going to cook out. And then we'll add the beans at the end, and that's the dish. That's kind of how you want this to end. Little tip, leave your spoon like that. Don't leave it in there. It'll taste like a wooden spoon. Leave it sitting like that or off to the side. I've taken 1 can of pinto beans, a can of black beans, and a can of red kidney beans. Rinsed them off, and that's all going in now. This is like the final step. They don't need to cook, really, because they're already cooked. If you want to use, dried beans, you're going to have to either do them, cook them in an Instant Pot or a pressure cooker, which basically an Instant Pot is. or soak them overnight and cook them in water. You could cook them in this, but it would just take too long. This recipe doesn't need to take that long. It takes about an hour, hour and a half to make. But you could let it go all day, and this at the end add the beans. So I'm just going to season this up and give it a taste, and that's the dish. Okay, so let's give this a taste. I hate watching people eat, but people say they want to see me taste the food, so I'm going to taste the food. I hate watching people eat. It's one of my least favorite things in the whole world. The smell is unbelievable because it's so smoky and earthy. Hot. This ain't your mama's chili, I can tell you that right now. The flavor is so rich. It's going to warm you up on a cold day, or it's going to make you sweat on a hot day. Either way, it's great either way. Give this a shot, people. And the longer this cooks, by the way, the better it's going to be. As long as it's low and slow and it's concentrating those flavors. It's not too much heat. I regulate the heat with the amount of chipotles I put in it. A little bit of a burn, but it's not bad. And I got some weak mouths coming over today. I like it a little spicy. So I can't make it too hot for them. Give this a shot. And if you like the episode, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. That helps me out huge, as I have food in my mouth as I speak right now. Share it with your friends and leave a comment. If there's something you want to see, let me know. I will do everything I can to accommodate you, as I did with the meatloaf and some other recipes that I've put up. Just wanted to show this award-winning chili recipe of mine. And I'm going to put the amounts of everything in the description below. So I'll see you all next time. Have an awesome day.